Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today in what is my first official press conference as the Attorney General for the great state of California, and I look forward to hopefully many more opportunities in the days ahead to work with all of you who have been able to join us today. Thank you for taking time out of your busy days to join on this press conference. And at the outset, I do just want to say a special shout out to a couple folks, including Mayor Sam Liccardo of San Jose, current chair of the Big City Mayors, also the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Enforcement section, specifically Michael Newman, Senior Assistant Attorney General. And as we talk a little bit about today's announcement, you'll hear more about why. I am thanking those because of their incredible collaboration, partnership, and leadership. As many of you know, I see the job of this office, the Department of Justice, as being the people's attorney, to stand up for those who've been wronged and to get justice for them, to represent the interests of all Californians, especially those who continue to be overlooked and unseen, those who are hurt and harmed and abused. I've shared before the inspiration of my parents, who have been and are social justice champions, were leaders in some of the greatest social justice movements of our nation. My mom fought for the restoration of democracy in the Philippines. My father marched in Selma, fighting for civil rights and voting rights. They were both leaders in the farm workers movement. From a young age, I learned from them that while they worked alongside Cesar Chavez, Dolores Huerta, and Philip Vera Cruz, and other incredible leaders, that when something isn't right, it's time to fight. And that injustice against one is an injustice against all. And it's in that spirit that I come to today's announcement. And as I've said before, taking on hate crime will always be one of my top priorities as the people's attorney. Just as my mother, Cynthia, did when she stood against injustices inflicted on Asian Americans outside the International Hotel in San Francisco in 1977, as California Attorney General, I know we cannot back down in the face of hate. Throughout California's history, too many of us felt the sting of hate and discrimination. And the fact is that no part of California is immune to hate. Too many Asian, Latino, Black, Native American, people with disabilities, LGBTQ, Jewish, Muslim, and Sikh Californians all across the state are hurting. And make no mistake, right now, we're in a full-on state of crisis, a full-on state of emergency when it comes to hate violence against the Asian Pacific Islander community. And it's going to take all of us working together to take on hate and its toxic effects on our society. So as part of that, I'm launching a Racial Justice Bureau within the California Department of Justice and working to help bring together many of our major local elected leaders in common cause against hate through a virtual convening of California's big city mayors. We must recommit ourselves to doing everything we can to better serve the needs of all Californians. We must stand united in solidarity and allyship, working together collaboratively. One of the biggest things we can do right now is show up for each other, remembering always that inescapable network of mutuality that Martin Luther King Jr. always talked about, how the success and the thriving of one is dependent on the thriving of all. And together, the Racial Justice Bureau and this virtual convening are a part of our newest efforts to lead the development of strategies to address bias and hate at their roots and to strengthen responses to hate crime in and throughout California. Specifically, the Racial Justice Bureau will initially bring 6 new attorneys and a supervising deputy attorney general on top of that to our civil rights enforcement section. How we allocate and marshal our resources represents our values. So we are demonstrating our commitment to addressing racial justice through the commitment of these critical resources to the Racial Justice Bureau within the civil rights enforcement section. These attorneys will assist with ongoing work on a broad range of significant civil rights and constitutional matters, including work to address hate crimes on behalf of the state of California and all Californians. These new attorneys are one of the first steps we'll be taking to help ensure we're looking at new and ongoing matters across DOJ through the lens of racial justice, through the lens of social justice. Among other things, the Bureau will assist with efforts on hate crimes in organizations, taking on the insidious effects of white supremacy and hate organizations on our society, and stepping up outreach within community organizations and law enforcement on hate crime prevention, information sharing, and reporting. Secondly, it will help address implicit and explicit bias in policing, launching and supporting investigations as appropriate, and recognizing the urgent need to strengthen trust between law enforcement and the communities they serve. Third, it'll focus on law enforcement best practices, issuing guidance to local law enforcement, prosecutors, and other public entities regarding shared challenges in providing for public safety. It will also address campus climate issues, including conducting and supporting investigations into overly punitive, discriminatory policies where they arise, and working to find innovative ways to strengthen diverse, equitable, and inclusive school environments. And finally, it will focus on the task force to study and develop reparation proposals for African Americans, assisting with the implementation of the new task force as authorized under Assembly Bill 3121, and fulfilling our obligations and responsibility under AB 3121. And importantly, I do want to note my office is hiring now and seeking qualified candidates for these very important attorney positions and much more across DOJ generally. If you want to join a dynamic team, stand up for the people, our values, and our incredible resources here in California, come join us. You can learn more about current openings and positions available in the new Racial Justice Bureau at www.oag.ca.gov/careers. Check that out if you're interested in joining our important racial justice work. And complementing our internal efforts that I've just described, we'll also be hosting a convening with big city mayors at the end of the month. This effort will be part of our broader statewide strategy, help increase information sharing and work to identify new innovative solutions for tackling shared challenges with regards to hate. It will also be an opportunity to highlight existing regional resources and actionable steps that can be taken by all Californians to fight back against hate. Drawing on the expertise of local elected leaders, the virtual convening will also seek to raise awareness around regional concerns involving hate crimes, support those who have been impacted by hate, very victim-centered, work to secure commitments for direct action across California. Given the recent reported rise in hate crimes and incidents against members of the Asian Pacific Islander community in particular, it's going to take all of us working together to identify pathways for better serving the needs of all of those facing hate. So bottom line, all of our communities deserve to be seen, to be valued, and to be protected. My office is committed to seeing all communities, valuing them, protecting them, and defending them. Their fights will be my fights. I will take care of them. And with that, I'll take your questions.